Hi guys, Kim here. I'm doing another pop-up world description just to try and clarify it a little bit. So I'm going to make a number of videos on this as it sort of has layers and each layer complements the whole story. Nigel and I are going to do one called Pizza Topping in the next couple of days, but I wanted to do this explanation first as some people have still been asking me to clarify this pop-up world idea. So in the center of it all, you have all of your own senses. Your eyes, your view of this world looking out. It is the only perception that we as individuals know. So, for example, if we're in France, say, looking at the Eiffel Tower, are we perceiving all of France at this moment? Or just the Eiffel Tower? Our capacity for the limits for our perception is much, much, much smaller than the whole world, as it's only the totality of the world that we're currently perceiving. So I don't know how many of you have actually played video games that have zones, but if you have, then when you move into a different zone, or you move around the video game, you move into different zones, and each zone loads as you walk into it. So you only have the totality of the information in that current zone that you're in. It's only a tiny amount of information compared to the whole game, but for the purposes of playing the game, you only need to have access to that little bit of the game that you're currently playing. Or it's a bit like a movie set. I don't know whether you've ever seen a movie set being shot, but when you're watching the movie set could be a street in, say, San Francisco, and the movie company might have just built a section of that street. But you have the idea it's actually the whole city, but actually the movie set is only one street. It's just shot from different angles. So that's the pop-up world, just the bit of the movie set that you could perceive. So let's get back to the real world, the one we're living in. I'm sitting at home with my car in the garage. Currently, I cannot see, hear or sense the car as I'm in the living room. So my car technically is not there. We've been taught to perceive that the car is always there because we live in a material world. But just maybe that bit of information just not need to be there until such time that I either think about the car or I go to my garage to see it, and then I get in and I drive away. So I'm doing just that. I'm going to my garage, getting in my car and driving away, driving to the local shops. Now in the pop-up world, the shops are not currently there. But as I drive towards the shops, they pop up. So by the time I get there, they are now completely there for me to view and interact with. Okay, so let's rewind for a second. Now I want to throw a belief in there, in addition to me getting in my car and driving to the shops. Before I got in the car, I had the news on in the house, and the news said that there was a toilet roll shortage and that there would be no toilet rolls at the shops. So now I get into my car, I drive to the shops, and whilst I'm driving to the shops, those shops pop up, but in those shops there are now no toilet rolls, as I had a belief from the thing that I heard on the TV before I left. So I get to the shops and there's no toilet rolls there. In a pop-up world, anything becomes possible. It's only our beliefs that restrict or limit us, as the rest of the world outside of our current perception has not yet been created until we perceive it. This perception sounds sort of mean, it sounds sort of selfish or self-centered or something, but no, it's only my perception, just as your view of the world is only your perception. It doesn't mean that I'm a mean person, it doesn't mean that I don't help anyone. It doesn't mean that I operate in this world towards only benefiting myself. It means that we're living in a perception, or whatever our perception is, of that which is creating our own little worlds. We've been taught that our universe is huge, and we think of that as a form, as a physical thing. But actually, our world on a physical level is tiny. It's only made up of the components that exist in our own current reality. And the rest of it doesn't exist in a pop-up worldview. We need only to change that bit of reality in our own tiny world. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Mandelbrot set, but it's kind of like that if you change any part of the Mandelbrot, you change the whole Mandelbrot. So I'm linking a 3-minute video done by the BBC Ideas as it explains the concept of the fractals and the Mandelbrot, and they depict graphics much better than I can. But I would like to add that I don't agree with everything that's said in this video, but it certainly explains the Mandelbrot and fractals in a pretty simplistic way. So back to, if you change a small part of the Mandelbrot, then the whole thing changes. Why? Because it isn't real. We only think it is. The only way to change that is to alter our belief in relation to what's possible. So I guess why the ego complicates this matter hugely is because the ego has to be right. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The ego doesn't care if I live or I die, as long as the ego is correct. Guys, I'd love you to ask questions about this, as I myself am not 100% sure on the clarity of what it is I'm trying to explain to you, or whether or not it's coming across correctly. So if you've got any questions, please ask them. I know from my own personal perspective that this perception came from the David Bowie movie I'm a Blackstar, where he talks about in the center of it all, where he says that he can't tell us the truth about the reality, but he can show us. And in that video, where he's blindfolded himself to emphasize that the central view of the world, his central view of the world, remember, the only thing that we all have in common is we all have a view of the world through our own eyes. Therefore, it goes, we all experience different versions of this reality because we all have different beliefs. I'm going to leave it there for now for 2 reasons. One, because I've got a date with the community gardening group where we're having a huge planting day and I'm due to be there in 10 minutes. And secondly, as I said before, as part of this introduction, this theory is complicated and layered. So I figured I'll keep on describing it so we can move on to the next layer, which will be pizza topping. I'm doing this one with Nigel, and he's pretty excited about it. Anyway, ta-ta for now.